Good morning, dear friends. In today's Gospel, it is the matter of ceremonial washings before eating meals. Some of the disciples had omitted this unimportant ceremony, and immediately the Pharisees were aware of it and confronted Jesus with it as if it were a terrible. Jesus addresses the Pharisees as fools, and all this because of their hypocrisy and dishonesty. They were keeping their traditions not out of love of God and neighbor, but to perpetuate their own favored position and to look holy in the eyes of their fellow Jews. Before we get indicated at these Pharisees, let us take a look at ourselves. Are we always honest with ourselves, with God and neighbor? When we keep certain commandments or regulations, do we keep them because they are God's will or just to look good to others? Do we simply want ourselves to be considered law-abiding Christians because this has advantages both in our own self-pride as well as socially, or are we really honestly interested in the love of God and neighbor, and keep every other commandment in such a way and with such an intention that our acts, our words, our thoughts are all expressions of our Christian's love? Disciples who belong to Jesus and His kingdom uphold God and not their own rules. Radical external changes are still just external changes. External changes do not change the heart nor address spiritual problems. We are not focused on the heart because that is what God is focused on. When we focus on our hearts, we will follow what God has called us to obey. But when we focus on the rules, we lose sight of Jesus and the heart He desires for us to have. We must have great action that we do not use God's law in a way that God did not intend. Obedience without devotion is vain worship and hypocrisy. Creating rules that God did not give is the letting go of God's commands and the word of God. Loving God and loving our neighbor as ourselves must always be the lens by which we evaluate all we do as individuals and as a church. Obedience is the fruit of love we have for God. Thank you.